Hey, folks, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Financial Fitness with Patrick, obviously presented by Soaring Profits. And what an absolute shit show we have seen this week. If you're watching the equities markets, the bond markets, everything is going for a roller coaster. Today, Tuesday, you're probably joining into us tomorrow afternoon. We saw Jerome Powell come out and with the inflation report of the CPI, he's going to be talking again tomorrow and discussing why inflation is starting to deteriorate. But we already know why. We look at the charts, we see bond yields starting to tick away, and there's nothing new and exciting here. But what we're being confirmed is that yields are starting to fall. The dollar has fell. Oil prices are falling. These are not signs of strong economy, right? We are now in a position where we're watching the QQQ, the NASDAQ indicator, and the SPY, the S&P 500 indicator. We are right at nearby all-time highs. It's crazy. We are in a euphoric mania that is wild. I've never seen anything like this before, nor has the stock market. We are seeing a melt up. So for those of you that don't really understand what we've been talking about, I want to pull up some charts here. And the first one I want to talk about is kind of that, the speculation asset in and of itself, the Bitcoin, right? The tulips. Everything here has to go perfect for Bitcoin to be on a run. And what are we seeing? We are seeing an absolute tear. I'm going to pull this up here as big as I can, pull up the chart. Here we are in Bitcoin. We have from Tuesday, October 12th, we are parabolic. This is straight up, right? A little bit of consolidation in the middle of end of November, and then straight up again. But what are we seeing? We're starting to see that pullback. We are still in a bull flag pattern. This should move out like this. And if you're bullish, we're going to see it pull up. If you're bearish, we're going to see it come back down, test these in and around the 35, 36,000 range. But why? Well, it's going to come back and it's going to get back into a range of consolidation, or we're going to continue moving through to the 51.5 range. Okay. The problem here, folks, is that Bitcoin in and of itself is such a speculation asset. So when we are manic, and the market is manic right now, the market is saying, we have dropped rates. Let's look at rates. We have dropped rates. We see the Fibonacci's here. We have dropped rates, but what are we doing? We are picking back up. Is this going to end up being a bear flag pattern and continuing down into that 3+ range? It could be. Like, we might end up breaking down here out of this trend. We've come back up, tested it, and we've broken back down. This could end up into the high threes as far as rates. That is what the market is trading right now. The market is not trading good news. The market is trading the technicals. It is a mechanical market. As the algorithms work and trade all day long, they are looking at the price of oil, right? What do we see oil doing? Oil is slumping down here. But why would oil be down? What is causing oil to go down? Are you not driving your car enough anymore? What's happening? The economy is slowing. Therefore, demand for oil is slowing. Therefore, the price for oil is dropping. This is not a good sign. If we can see oil back into that 85, 90 range, and we see all of these yields coming down, I would feel much safer. I am very concerned when we look back into the QQQ. This is the NASDAQ. I'm going to pull off all my garbage here. We see this consolidation. We see the pull down, and we have went straight up. This is one of the largest rallies the stock market has ever seen. That's scary. Like anything, when you pull an elastic band, and we are pulling the elastic band right now, there are only two things to do. It either gets to the point where it snaps and it breaks, or it's going to rebound. So what are some areas of consolidation that we can look for as we're breaking new highs? This is where we're looking at new highs into that 411, 415 range. And this is going back to all-time highs, right? This is where we're here. That is our all-time high right there at 410.45. How does it feel very much in your world like we are at all-time highs? Consumer debt, credit card debt at all-time highs. We have We should not be there. We are pricing in perfection. We are pricing in rate cuts. The consumer is holding but weakening. This is not a situation that is going to end up positive if these catalysts still remain. All of this mania that is happening right now is in anticipation of rate cuts, okay? Because inflation is seemingly dead. We have the CPI today, the CPI today, and we see inflation again down, but not all the way to their expectations. Jerome Powell in the Federal Reserve is looking for a 2% inflation rate. We are still almost double that. He cannot cut rates. If he cuts rates, it's going to be for all the wrong reasons. He's going to cut rates because something is broken. Something in the banking sector, something in the automotive sector, something in the housing sector, something in some major sector is going to demand that they cut rates. It's going to be too late. That's going to mean something is broken. When we talk with Powell, and we will hear him this week at the FOMC meeting, he talks about longer and higher for longer. Okay. Higher is your rates. As these rates, this is the 10-year, this is the 2-year. Okay. The 2-year is still drastically inverted. We're at 4.735 closing today. Well, we are currently in the daily of 4.735. The 10-year is 4.210. We are still an inverted. Every time we invert, we see recession. This happens. When recession happens is when we uninvert. And what happens is we have bearish steepening and bullish steepening. As we come out of the inversion, we can either have a bearish inversion, which is the bearish steepening, which the rates move in alignment, where they go down together, or you're going to have them in the opposite, where they can go up together, or you're going to have a bearish one. And right now, we were looking like over the last 2 weeks that we were coming out of that inversion, and now we are slamming back into it. Again, I tell you, the 2-year right now is re-inverting even steeper. We are at the steepest inversion that we have ever seen. Historically, when you go back into the 70s is the only one that comes close. And it was a devastating recession. But why are the rates at 4 and 5% problematic? It's because we have a massive amount of debt. In the 70s, we had Paul Volcker. He took us to 18 and 19% rates, but we didn't have the national debt issues that we do now. This is not a safe environment. And what we're seeing here is this is the VIX. This is the volatility index. And we are seeing it get crushed down. Since, here in the middle of October, this was the height of the lows of the market, okay? As the VIX gets crushed down, this is your call options. What we're seeing is these 0 day to expiration options that people are buying, and they're driving the market up. This market is massively being manufactured, and it's being manipulated. We have to be aware. We have to understand what we're doing in this environment so that we don't get taken advantage of. And folks, I want this really beautifully leads into our next guest, because what she's doing and what her folks are doing is taking, the financial gains of individuals, whether it be housing, whether it be, the markets, and they're doing a fantastic job of moving into a space that is allowing children to do a great job. We had her on the last show of Soaring Profits, James and I want to go. Hi, folks, again, and welcome to Financial Fitness with Patrick, presented by Soaring Profits. And this show is really a special one, an interesting one that I've been looking forward to for a while. A very special guest, one that we had on Soaring Profits just last week. Fantastic young lady. I say young, she's my age. We're young. We're still young. Don't give me a hard time around this, Jordyn. You got to give me that, all right? Miss Jordyn Curley, the producer for the Tuttle Twins. And for those of you who don't know what the Tuttle Twins are, this is honestly one of my favorite cartoons in production right now. They are under the Angel Studios production company, and Miss Jordyn Curley has been working with them for a long time, putting this project together. And we're here to talk about the media space. She does this with the Tuttle Twins, but she also is the owner of Elephant Season Production. Elephant Season Productions. Sorry. And Jordyn, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Patrick. And just a quick correction for you. Angel is our distribution house. Our production house is actually Tuttle Twins LLC. We opened up an LLC just for Tuttle Twins Show LLC, just for the show.
And this is why we bring her on, folks. She understands the business structure. So Jordyn, obviously, thank you so much for joining us. When we had you on Soaring Profits the other night with my buddy James, I was a fanboy. I love what you folks have been doing with Tuttle Twins. Maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about what the Tuttle Twins are, what Kelly and Friends, kind of this other project that you're working on that's kind of near and dear to our heart as well at Soaring Profits, because we've done some work with your partner in crime on that one, the other Jordyn, a little taller, little bit different looking.
Just by like a foot or two.
Just a little, yeah. But maybe you could tell us a little bit, first of all, the projects you're working on, and then two, how you folks pitch these new kind of independent market media spaces, and how do they make money? I guess that's maybe the best way to start off.
Yeah, there are so many things that I could talk about right now. Okay, so first off, projects that I am personally involved in. So like you said, I'm the producer of Tuttle Twins. I run a production company called Elephant Season Productions, where we do animation for marketing and music videos and ad campaigns. And then I also have a new TV show that I'm producing called Kelly and Friends, which is currently in our lovely investment round and raising funds. And then on top of all that, I also have an expo that I run, which is around a 12 to 1,500 person event that happens annually in Salt Lake, and that's happening in March. So I know we're going to focus on the shows though. So we'll focus on Tuttle Twins and Kelly and Friends. And yeah, I mean, where would you like me to begin? I can explain right now.
So
let me
when we talked previously, and I talked with the other Jordyn, one of the things that you folks are looking at right now is trying to figure out how this fantastic idea that you have, this book series that Jordyn has put together, other Jordyn has put together, and now getting it to production. And Tuttle Twins was the same way. Tuttle Twins is something that here myself, I'm a little Canadian way up north, fighting off the grizzly bears in our igloos. If I've heard of it, you guys are making some major traction in the United States. Yes. So how does a project like that get monetized? First of all, is this, pardon the pun, angel investing? Is this seed investing? Are you folks going to your own pocket? What does that initial round of funding look like for an organization like what you're doing? And what is the path to revenue? What is the path to profitability? And therefore the ROI for your investors? How do we get our money back with a little extra?
Yeah, that's a great place. All right. So let me give you a tiny bit of a history on, not really a history, but on the entertainment space. So historically, if I had an idea, so I, really wanted to make a show about a puppy who visits outer space. I come up with a show. I come up with who I think
trademark it. Get it there. Good.
I would come up with some fun characters. I'd come up with what the overall storyline would be, and I would get into conversations with different studios and pitch around my idea. So I would have illustrations. I'd have what's known as a Bible, so a show Bible, which talks about different series arcs and episode arcs and characters and longevity and all that fun stuff. And I go to a studio and they say, "We love it. Here is money to make the show, but we are going to control what the show is because we need to make sure it's on our brand."
Right. So that is more of a like terrestrial television type model. That's the Warner Brothers, Donald Duck, Daffy, the boys, the OGs. That is the terrestrial model. But things are changing slightly in that space, correct?
Yes. So things are changing. And right now we're seeing a shift in the entertainment industry. And it's kind of going one of two ways. Either one, I have a product. So I have My Little Pony or I have Legos. And that already has a great user base. I have, hundreds, thousands, millions of people that love this toy. And so they will say, let's make a show about it because it already has a proven audience. So the distributors will or the production houses will go over to the toy companies and they will say, we want to make a show for you. And again, already proven audience. The other thing that's happening, and that's been happening for a while, but the thing that's really weird that's happening right now is that studios are no longer buying ideas. So I met a producer, and this guy he's been in the industry for, 3-4 decades.
Wow.
And he told me he pitches around 300 to 400 shows a year. And people know him, and all he would do is pick up the phone and say, "Hey, so and so, I've got this idea and it's this and this, and you guys like it? All right, cool. So thanks for the 100 grand."
Right.
Or I've got this show. Oh, you don't like it? All right, cool. I'll try again.
So,
Um,
okay, so in that space, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but my mind goes a million miles away, and that's how we can have a really good discussion around this. So, like, how many kittens and mittens stories can you have in this space? Like, I'm sure if you're pitching 300 a year, you're gonna have a few cats that lost their mittens
well,
within
and
that
that's the
storyline.
point, is that with that model, studios are doing one of two things. Studios are either saying, "Thanks, that's a great idea. I don't want anyone else to have it. We're not going to make it, but I'll buy that idea off of you so that we control it."
Right.
Um,
Right.
or they're saying, "No, thank you." And out of 300, I mean, you're lucky if 50 of those are going to be sticky.
Right.
Just the amount that comes out. And studios have realized that it's kind of a crapshoot. They're saying they're looking at their revenues, and they're saying, well, these shows that are kind of coming out of nowhere and they're just an idea in someone's head aren't really making that much money. They're not based off comics. They're not based off of toys. So we don't want to do that anymore. We want shows to have a proven model, to have a proven audience. So they are now leaning towards purchasing shows that are already done, that are already created.
Okay.
I have an episode, but I have a season. I have multiple seasons. Um,
So then
and
as a
so,
creator, you find yourself in a situation where you again, you're self-funding,
mhm,
uh, and or not happening.
yes, exactly. And so
Okay.
there's been this rise of the indie studios, and there was a big rise of indie studios in the 90s when a lot of technology shifts and a lot of the larger studios didn't want to change their pipelines from traditional to digital. Little studios said, well, we want to be on the cutting edge, so we'll do it. So there was this big rise of indie studios back in the 90s, and it's really happening again. And mostly it's driven by, oh, they're not buying our ideas, so we need to make our shows. And then the way that, if you were an investor and, Patrick, you gave me, 6 figures to do Kelly and Friends, the way that you would see your money back is when I then have a season and I go over to PBS, to Netflix, to, Disney, and I say, hey, I have a season. This is a fantastic show, XYZ. Here's why you want it. And then they say, that's awesome. We'll give you, $50,000 per completed episode, or we'll do, profit sharing on the
Okay.
ads that come off of it. The other way that an investor would make their money back is once the show gets bigger, merch. Merch is a huge, huge, huge item for specifically children's television. So think about it when Stranger Things came out. The Stranger Things merch was everywhere. I mean, you could Christmas decorations, Stranger Things, and Halloween costumes and toys and posters and like everything. And so that is a huge draw for people. That's also why studios really like it if you already have a toy, because you already
Right.
have merch. You're doing it the opposite way, merch to show as opposed to show to merch. I actually have a friend of mine who is a writer for Nickelodeon, specifically writing for shows that he's creating based off of a toy line. So it's actually like a particular department. Like they recognize it's not like they just do this once in a while. Like this is a proven model that studios are running.
Well, so does this kind of harken back to, why we have all these Marvel movies that have come out and why we see the Transformers, like that it's just so cookie cutter that we're seeing it and we're not even recognizing it as consumers per se?
Sorry about that.
No
Alarm.
worries.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Yes, 100%. So you already have Marvel fans set up. You
Yep.
already have, and you know what? Love it or hate it, people are going to come to a Marvel movie. It could be
Right.
an absolute terrible movie, but it's going to get an audience.
Right.
They're going to make a profit, because they already know based off of what they've made in the past, what they're
Right.
projected to make in the future. I mean, think
So
about it when Disney bought up Star Wars.
Right.
everything Star Wars started coming out. You got all these Star Wars shows and you got all these and Star Wars movies. And you know what? It was literally just it's money grabs. It's
Yes.
put stuff out there so that you can make more merch based off of the new shows and the new movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm not much of a, a Star Wars fanatic, but I did watch them growing up and that sort of thing. And like I have a daughter, like she's 14 years old, and she was kind of in that era when all those were just starting to really revamp themselves, and they're almost unwatchable. Like there's so many angles and so many
So
new
many.
storylines and so many characters created that there's thousands of angles to take now with the new Star Wars adventures. And so again, Lucasfilms, they come along, they do the original Star Wars, Disney comes in, buys their rights. So Disney obviously feels that there's a huge opportunity there, which makes sense. Star Wars is legendary. But Tuttle Twins, or with what you're
Yes.
doing with Kelly and Friends, these are a very different non-terrestrial model that you folks are doing. So when you pitch to a Netflix, when you pitch to a PBS, what sort of revenue are you seeing from these people? Are you seeing like 150, $200,000 an episode? Are you seeing 10,000? I just don't know enough about the creative, and I'm going to call it cartoon, and that's probably going to get me murdered by somebody. There's probably a hit out on me right now
Yeah,
in this
cartoon
space.
works. Cartoon animation,
I'll
same
take it.
difference.
Cool.
Yeah.
But when like in that space, it seems like, cartoons are fun. They're targeted and marketed towards children, but they're a business and they
Oh
have to
yeah.
have the same functional, return on investment that anything else does. So what are some margins that someone can expect in a seed fund? How do we get to that ROI? How do we get there? And then what is our exit strategy? Like if I take a company to a point where I can take it public, to me, that would be very much like taking it to Netflix, taking
Right.
something like this. That would be our IPO, if you will, right? So
Right.
once we get to Netflix, once we get to PBS, what's my exit strategy? How do I get out?
Well, it depends on how you got in. So if you were investing in the specific show or if you were investing in the company. Now,
Okay.
Tuttle Twins, we like, as you know, we were based off of a book series. The series was doing very well, selling millions of copies. Our showrunner, he came from the advertisement space. So he came from Harmon Brothers. He is Daniel Harmon. And he approached Connor Boyack and said, hey, I think, we should make a TV series. I think it'd be super effective for what you're trying to teach and getting
Yeah.
kids in on the ground level. And then from there, it's a matter of initially with that seed round, getting your core group of investors. And you just need enough to get a pilot out. And at that point, you could have $200,000, you could have $500,000. $200,000 is a very low price point for a single episode of a kid's half-hour TV show. And a half hour is going to be 22 minutes because when you go to broadcast, 22 minutes
Really?
is considered your airtime. Yeah.
Wow. So $250,000 for a 30-minute.
That's actually that's pretty conservative.
Wow.
If you think about like SpongeBob, they're more at like a $500,000 an episode. And it really depends on the
I would
type
have
of
never done it.
animation you're doing, the environments, the characters, all of that stuff.
Yeah,
And once you have that initial pilot, it's a proof of concept.
absolutely.
Um, then it makes it obviously easier to pitch to following investors. So for Tuttle Twins, we did a Reg CF for after our seed round for crowdfunding investment. We ended up with over 8,500 people on our cap table. And by the end of the investment, the open investment round, we were the most crowd-funded kids show or kids entertainment period in the history of crowdfunding when we closed in 2021. And it was absolutely awesome. And we worked with Angel in order to send out the marketing that we needed to have a strategy for that crowd fund. And so we ended up getting, like I said, over 8,500 people on our cap table. And then we also, with the agreements that we had with them, said, when we have revenue for 120% of your investment, we'll pay you out. And so then we gave people the option of, stay in, or
Yeah.
you just made 120%. you want to get out, you can get out if you want to.
Wow. Okay. So that's what you're looking at is so on a return like that for how long approximately time from, investment to cash flow? What did on that Tuttle Twins project? How long did that approximately take?
So we are still in the midst of getting people out
Okay.
at the moment. So that
Yeah.
was 2021. This is 2023.
Yeah.
And then it's also, I really like working with Angel because of their model. Like I was saying earlier, that when you go out pitching a show, they'll say, "Thank you so much. This is a great idea. We'll give you the money to make it, but we'll control the creative. You
Right.
have to run all scripts by us. You have to run all character designs by us. We need to make sure this is on our brand." Angel says, "You know what? We love this idea. We trust you as a creator.
That's
We'll
great.
help you, with investment if you need funds, because not everyone who comes to Angel needs funds. Um, and you're the creator, you create. They handle the marketing, they handle the merch, and we are allowed to create the show that needs to be created."
Well, I myself personally, I stumbled upon Angel, um, probably well, it was during the pandemic, so 2+ years ago. And
Yep.
what they do with their model is fantastic. And I talked a little bit earlier about like the fanboying about the Tuttle Twins, but like I can't say enough about what you folks have done with that. Like it truly is. And for those of you that are right there, like you folks turn into financial fitness because you're wanting to understand what's happening in the world a little bit better. You want to know the markets. This Tuttle Twins is that when you should have been learning it when you were 10, when you were 7, when you were 5. The Tuttle Twins do a fantastic job of breaking these really large concepts down. Like, and you guys talk, maybe Jordyn, you can talk a little bit about one of the episodes, individually and how your agenda, and I'm going to call it an agenda, but it's truly just educating children
Mhm.
about why America is what it is. And, with all the great things and all the faults and all the beautiful chaos that it ensues. But you folks tell a fantastic story through the lens of, children's eyes, but really digging into some heavy stuff. Maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the topics you guys have discussed.
Yeah, so we have a whole bunch. Our first episode ever is about Frederick Bastiat's The Law, so the right to life, liberty, and property. And in there, we talk about taxation. We have the inflation monster, where we talk about the Federal Reserve and the printing of money. And we
Well,
have
that that alone is what I spend 100 hours a week studying myself. And I came to it sort of late. I was in my 20s when I really started getting into business. I started my own business and I didn't know enough to really be successful in it. And when you start looking at market dynamics, and we don't teach this to children. It's the
right.
one thing we don't teach. We'll teach them anything else and everything else, but this is the stuff that's super duper important. And it's also we should be involved in the civics of what's going on in our nation and our
Yeah.
countries around the world of why inflation maybe is, it's a little bit scary when we talk about it right now, but hey, let's just print some more money and we'll solve that problem and everyone can be rich and happy until you're
Right.
not, right? I love
Right.
what you folks do. Jordyn, we've got a little QR code down there in the bottom, the other side, down in the bottom.
Okay.
That is to your expo and what you do with that. Maybe you could tell folks a little bit about what you're doing with that because I think it's a fantastic thing. It really talks about, corporate creativity and how you help people that way.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I think so with the expo, that is an annual event that we have every year. And the purpose of that is for networking. So that is for bringing people together in the animation industry. Specifically right now in Utah, we are also working on some other cities, which you will find out if you follow me on LinkedIn and stuff later. Um, and the whole idea is that the way you can advance your career, advance your life is through networking and through positive relationships with like-minded people, and even with non-like-minded people. Just getting out there and getting to know each other, seeing what it is, seeing who it is that's in your town, in your city, in your state, that's interested in what it is that you do and what it is that you have to offer. I also, if you go to jordancurley.com, I also help teams to come together to have some more creative workflows. So I've worked with people in the pharmaceutical space, as well as engineering and broadcast, and in a couple of different other areas as well. And the idea there is, if you're stuck on a problem, whether that problem is, how do I get this microchip to store more whatever, or if that problem is, what do I make for dinner? It's a problem, right?
Yep.
And the best way to get out of the best way to solve that problem is to get out of the situation and to think about it in a different way. So I run workshops with teams and I do keynotes as well, where I'm helping people to think about their problems, put them on their heads, and come up with more creative solutions. So I have several different activities that we do, also just different thought processes that you can have in order to help you to creatively problem solve. Because one thing that every single industry needs is creativity. And sometimes I actually had a woman contact me after I had done a 2-day workshop with them. And she told me that they recognized through the workshop and through different call and responses that they had two employees that weren't being used effectively. They were actually in departments that they were going to be more successful in other departments. So they switched them. They actually switched their roles as a result of the talks that we gave and of the exercises that we did. And they said not only were the employees happier, their work was better, and they were able to basically get more out of them. By putting them into a different role. And I think a lot of times we just do what's in front of us, and we just do what we're told, and we're not forward thinking, and we're complaining about problems. We're not offering solutions to those complaints. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the solution may be, oh, well, she doesn't do this and this and this. Well, why not? And can you? Or let's figure out how, maybe she's unaware she has to do that. So opening up lines of communication as well. So there's a lot of things that we do to help people to think more creatively about their problems, about situations that they're in, about situations that their employees and companies are in as well.
Well, I certainly think that you can see where that skill set comes into with drawing from your creativity into the production side. And I know that you'd be able to help somebody do that fantastically. So Jordyn, how do people get in touch with you? You said about LinkedIn. Obviously, we got the QR code there. How do people get in touch with you so that they can work with you? And folks, her resume just speaks for itself. Jordyn's been a lot of fun. We've had her on a couple times here now, and she is as lovely behind the scenes as she is when she's on the camera. She is a lovely human to do business with. And how do they get in touch with you? I could flog you all day. I love what you do, and I even more love what you stand for. I think there's not enough people making that stand in the corporate world of saying, hey, we need a change. We need something that's a little bit different. Where we are in the world right now, it's not always the most popular thing to say, hey, nope, I want to do something different. And you do that on a daily basis, and you inspire other people to do that as well. So I think you're amazing. I think it's pretty wonderful what you're doing, but tell people how they can get in touch with you, or I could go on here all day.
Yeah, LinkedIn. So my name's right on the screen. Hop on LinkedIn, look me up, hit me up there. And then depending on what it is that we're going to talk about, I got different avenues that I'll send you.
Perfect. And if people have a couple $100,000, want to get some shows started, maybe, I don't know, Kelly and Friends, how's the best way? Again, get in touch with you through LinkedIn or?
So yes. And Kelly and Friends I am super excited about that show. Super briefly, it is the first kids show ever to feature a child with Down syndrome as the lead character, not as a secondary character, not as a friend, as the lead character. And the whole point of that show is to give kids who are underrepresented, kids specifically in different mental health situations, different physically abled children, different children with, skin conditions or abnormalities that they wouldn't be considered quote unquote normal, to give them a voice, to give them a face, to give them a sense of belonging in the world, and to most importantly, see themselves represented. So they know that they're a kid just like all of the other kids. That's Kelly and Friends. And I'm so excited about that show. I'm more than happy to get on the phone with anybody who's interested in learning more about that. And again, message me on LinkedIn. I will gladly talk to you about that all day.
Again, Jordyn, I thank you so much for coming on today. It's always a pleasure when we get a chance to talk. The projects you're working on are the change your world stuff that we talk about at Soaring Profits. And I appreciate that we were able to put some crossover here with the business side of things. But folks, please, if you have opportunity, if you're looking to diversify your portfolio, whether, you know, like myself, I'm in real estate investment, I do the markets, I trade equities and bonds. There's always a time to be looking at the next what if. It can't all be a pizza place or a sub shop. You know, maybe you're looking at the media industry, and I couldn't think of anyone else to put some money in someone's hands that truly is going out and changing the world. Jordyn, thank you so much for joining us. Profiteers out there, as always, a pleasure. Let's make some money together, folks.